Si je me ça. Je suis arrivée limite en striptease.
Hello, and welcome to the Atheist Republic Sunday Hangout. Our normal moderator and host, Makisha, could not be here today. Her voice is dead due to a bit of sickness. So I'm going to try and fill in the best I can for her here, and hopefully I won't do too poor a job. So today's discussion will be dealing with religious fundamentalism and violence, and this is basically something that we definitely wanted to talk about in the wake of the latest attacks in Paris. A very tragic scene in Paris right now of the last few days. A great deal of death and destruction and just absolute terror for the people of Paris. I think we're going to start the discussion today with Philippe, and then I'll let Marita speak. Marita wanted to speak after Philippe. I'm going to let you start off, Philippe, because Philippe's actually in France, so he may have a better perspective than some of the rest of us. So go ahead and let us know what's going on, Philippe.
Hey guys, hope you can hear me. I'm not used to start and be the first one to talk in those hangouts. So obviously with what happened today yesterday in Paris. So let you meet my daughter, Marion. So perhaps you will have a double testimony and a double perspective and maybe a slightly different point of view from her. So, well, I was watching the game between France and Germany, and suddenly her mom called me saying, "Do you know where she is?" So as you can believe, I was just like, shit. Okay, so I start to call her, find her inbox and voicemail, and let her some messages and start to call all her friends, at least all the numbers I had, to ask them to look for her. The reason why I was a little concerned, to say it lightly, is that she was supposed to take a dance class, and the studio she's used to go is very nearby. Everything happened yesterday, so we were just like, oh. Fortunately, she was just watching a movie in a very distant place. So as soon as she got out, she got the message and called us back and told us that she was safe. And after I started to look at the events on TV and try not to understand, but to figure out how many victims, the procedure, the attacks, who were the guys, etc., etc., etc. And okay, so obviously the whole discourse is now this has nothing to do with Islam. Unfortunately, the guys shout Allah Akbar before shooting, so you can argue it's not this Islam. I can hear that, no problem. I'm not saying that every Muslim is going to become a terrorist because of Islam. Unfortunately, there is some passages in Islam and in the Quran that can be all take literally or twisted in a way that explain or excuse that kind of behavior. And that's the whole topic of our hangout today. And perhaps I'm going to leave my own give a feeling
Mais je parle de quoi?
Bah, ce qui s'est passé.
Yeah, so I was watching the new James Bond at the theater, and I just learned about just many shootings happening in Paris when I just got out of the theater, and we didn't know what was going on, and we didn't know if it was linked to religion or if it was just people arguing or if it was just someone claiming something, and we didn't know what it was related to. And then we learned about them taking hostages in the venue called the Bataclan, and we didn't know what was happening, and it lasted for like 2 hours, and then the armed forces just went into the Bataclan. They killed the terrorists, but then they found out there were many dead people and injured people, and it took another few hours for the Islamic State to claim the events. So until then, we were not sure. We were starting to figure things out because the guys blew up. They blew themselves up. So yeah, we figured out it was a religious terrorist attack, but we were not sure at first. And one of my first thoughts was, I'm so sorry for all the Muslims who are going to pay for the actions of these people, because Islamophobia is real in France, and it's getting worse and worse as those events happen. And I feel so sorry because I have many Muslim friends, and they don't stop apologizing to us as if they committed this and it's not their fault. And I feel so sorry because every religion has a message that says, don't kill people, don't kill your neighbor, love your neighbor, but you can kill this person if they do this or that or this or that. Every religion has that. And yeah, so it happens with Muslims, but it has happened with other religions. It still happens with other religions now. It happened in the past, and yeah, I feel really sorry for them because it's what the Islamic States, it's what they want. It's precisely what they want. They want us to turn against the Muslims, so the Muslims feel rejected by the society of the country they live in, and then they turn to the Islamic State because they feel like only them understand them, and then that's why they are convinced that they should take revenge and just like shoot everyone that is not with them. So I think it's like it's a vicious circle because it's Muslim recruiting other angry Muslims to scare people who are not Muslims, and then and so on and so on. So it's just it's yeah. I blame the people who do that, and I'm really angry at them, and I hate the Islamic State. But I feel so sorry for my other Muslim friends because yeah, it's always like that. One person or a few people do something, and we blame a whole population. So. It has happened with Black people, it happens with Muslim people, yeah. So that's my point of view on that issue.
Thanks so much, Philippe, and to your daughter there. I think Philippe brought up a really great point that we all need to address and understand, which is that, and also his daughter as well, and we can kind of tie these two in together. As she said, she feels sorry for the good Muslims out there that had no part in this and didn't want any part in this. But it's like Philippe said. Unfortunately there are scriptures within the Quran and within Islamic dogma that offers what I like to term divine justification for these acts. And I think that's the real problem. That there is this sort of justification for these sorts of things within the doctrine and within the dogma of the religion. So the problem becomes the fact that moderate Muslims want to tell us that this isn't actually representative of Islam, and Islam is what they view Islam as in their own personal interpretations. And because of that, we see that there's an issue with addressing the need for reform within Islam. And there definitely is a need for reform if Islam is going to persist as a religion that exists on this planet. But it's hard to have reform when we have this no true Scotsman fallacy floating around saying, oh, well, you can't look at like the Islamic State and view that as what Islam is. And we have to understand that these are fundamentalist Muslims. And there are socioeconomic issues and things like that have given motivation for their actions. But the justification for doing those things comes entirely from Islam and from the Quran. That's where the justification comes from, and that's the problem. The problem is that there is a justification for it in their minds, and they get that from their scripture. And in their minds, their God feels that they are justified in what they're doing. And that's what has to be addressed. That's what has to change if there's going to be some reform and some real change within Islam. So we can't keep having this no true Scotsman fallacy just float around and saying, oh, well, those aren't true Muslims. The fact is they are. They are true Muslims. They just have a different interpretation than moderate Muslims take themselves. And in order to have reform, we have to address all of these people as Muslims and as part of Islam. And we have to get the moderates to root out this fundamentalism within their own religion and get them to bring about reform, because outside agents can't bring about reform in their religion. Atheists aren't going to be able to reform Islam. Secularists aren't going to be able to reform Islam. Christians can't reform Islam. Only Muslims can reform Islam, and that's where it has to come from. So, I think that's where the conversation has to go. That's what we have to address. So, Marita, you wanted to speak next?
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. So we all know what's happened in Paris. We know how much damage it does to people. I know what it is. Religion. Religion is the greatest evil that exists. Religion harms much more people than any weapon made. I'm not saying that this because of the fact that I was in fear for friends and family in France. It's this because no one is safe, as Europe and the whole world. What would you do if it happened in my city, in my country? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We have so much stuff in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Bangladesh, in other cities, in other towns over the world. And we must start openly fight with religion, because religion is cancer. It's cancer for all humanity. Because of religion, people kill others. People kill their neighbors, their friends, their families, their wives, their daughters. Why? Because it says in fucking Quran, because the fucking Muhammad told that. It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking nonsense. I don't believe in God like you do. No, I don't believe in paradise. I don't believe in fucking 70 fucking virgins. Because of that, this massacre, this horrible, awful. I'm honestly I'm speechless when I see and when I think about this in Paris. I have good friend. You all know that. I have Philippe in Paris, and when I saw that in yesterday in morning, I was so afraid for him and for his daughter and for my sisters. I have 3 sisters in France, nearby Paris, and I was afraid. I'm afraid here in Croatia, because those people, those immigrants, I don't say that all of them are terrorists, but this one with Syria passport, with Egypt passport, through Croatia, he was in fucking Croatia, and no one said nothing. Okay, let them through. We are transit country. How is this possible? Why Europe, why our governments don't protect us from terrorists? People in Croatia blame France, blame United Kingdom, blame America, blame Croatia, blame every fucking countries in this fucking world for this terrorist attack in Paris. Why? Because America helped one fraction, because America gave them weapon, because UK gave them weapon. But no, it's not only America's fault, France's fault, or UK's fault. It's fault of religion. In the name of fucking religion, people do stuff like this. In the name of religion, in the name of fucking Allah, in the name of fucking God, people kill others. And we must say stop. Right now, in this moment, we must say stop. I don't like insult. I don't like insult, but I really hate. I really hate those motherfuckers who let the terrorists in to do that. I know I don't speak now English properly because I'm so upset, and I honestly I cannot think. I cannot think properly. I asked Kostas before, can he edit my speech for today, but I'm too upset even for read that, because I'm looking news now, and our Prime Minister Zoran Milanovic said we are safe. We are in Europe safe. We are not safe. You are not safe in America, Kasper. You are not safe. No one is safe. For what? For religion. For fucking religion. I want. I don't know. Philip, you can speak now because I'm too fucking upset. I'm too fucking upset, and I'm shaking.
And I understand, Marita. This is a very tough subject for us to deal with, but because it does strike at the heart of all of us. These were innocent people that were murdered in Paris. There's no other term that can be used. They aren't involved in any war or any aggression. They were just innocent people out trying to live their lives, and to have someone come in and just murder them based on based on their religious beliefs is terrible. And of course, when we talk a little bit more, I want to let Philippe and Marianne speak again. But when we talk a little bit more, I'm going to discuss some about the socioeconomic stuff that Marita hit on a little bit, because there are motivations there. But again, the justification is the issue. So Philippe and Marianne, y'all want to speak again?
So I'll let Marianne first.
Yeah, because you talked about reforming Islam, and I think it's not only religion that needs to be reformed. I think is every country and every culture needs to embrace its population and make them feel like they belong to a country before they belong to a religion. I mean, the big issue. I'm only talking about France. I'm mainly talking about France right now because that's what I know. But we have many young people who enroll in the Islamic State, and they were not Muslims at first. They were lost, and they felt rejected by society, and they got enrolled over the internet by the Islamic State, and it gives them a purpose, and it gives them importance, and it gives them a role to play in another society. And I think we wouldn't face as much radicalization right now if we were more open to youth and to those people who turn to religion to have a role to play. It's because basically they're outcasts, and it's the only thing they find. It's the only purpose they find to their lives. So I think it's a big problem regarding society, and I think it's not only religion. It's both religion and identity. And I think because what was really striking during the events regarding Charlie Hebdo is that we were talking about Muslims of France, and to me it was really shocking because we're supposed to be French or American or Croatian before any religion, and that was the big problem. You need to embrace the identity of your culture and other countries and whatever. You need to embrace a culture before you embrace a religion, and I think it's a big problem. You need to feel like you're part of a country to not turn against it by religion. That's what I'm saying. They're using religion, but really it's just an excuse to turn against a way of life, because that's what they attacked. They attacked a stadium where people were playing football. They attacked people just having a drink and smoking a cigarette at a cafe, and they attacked people who were just enjoying themselves and dancing and enjoying music. So, and they attacked in an area that is really young and mixed and very creative, very artistic, and very representative of what France is about. It's a mix of different cultures. It's a mix of different ethnicities. It's a mix of it's an identity that is really about embracing food, fun, arts, blah blah blah, but not religion. France is not a very religious country, so yeah, that's what they try to attack. That's what I'm saying. You need to embrace your culture in order to not be too involved in your religion. You must put your culture first, and that's what we need to work on, in my opinion.
Yeah, as I kind of agree with what you just said. What is striking is to some of the people at the argument that say that those young people turn to Islam and radicalism because they don't feel French, because France has an interior Islamophobic culture. And that is a wrong argument, because how on earth do you explain what happened in Algeria like 20 years ago? Well, all young Algerians turned into radicalism to become Islamist and start to kill their neighbors. They were Algerian, all the society was Muslim around then, so it's not a problem of religion, like she just said. It's a problem of social integration and hope. In my view, what they try to destroy is hope, because they don't have any hope. Those are young people, as she said, a lot of native French people, what did you say, white Christian, whatever, turn to Islam to become radicalists. Why do they do that? What's the purpose? Well, the fact is that I think those youngs don't have any, they don't see themselves in the future. They think this world is rotten and has no future, and for them it's dark. So let's rush apocalypse. Let's be the active agent of the end of the world. At least you have the impression to do something and to have an impact on the world, because that's what the problem is there. They have the idea that they are insignificant, and that's the whole point. So they grab to Islam because it gives them a frame and a purpose and a training and a sense of brotherhood and being accepted and being important. They say to them, you are very important, you're going to do a difference in the world, and suddenly you're nothing and you become, wow, I'm important, and I'm going to be recognized and be in history books and whatever and whatever. So it gives them a purpose, but they need that because they don't have it in the social way, in their social life. They don't have hope, they don't have future, they don't have a goal in life. They feel they are doomed from the beginning. They are outcasts, and that's the problem. They grab religion because they need a purpose and something greater than them. And you can, I think, reinvent that with democracy and pride to be French and etc. And what she said was very, very shocking. Shocked me from a long time ago. It's saying les musulmans de France, Muslims from France. No, fuck. They are French people who used to be Muslim. That's it. They are French first, and that's the battle is there. It's in their identity, in their inner way to see themselves. They must see them as French before Muslims.
That's some very good points from both of you, Marianne and Philippe. You know, and I think that ties into some of what Marita said and what I wanted to talk about with the socioeconomic motivation for actions like this. And of course, I've seen plenty of my friends talking about how the United States created ISIS, and it was Bush and Cheney and our whole intervention in Iraq and the Iraq War that brought about ISIS and their existence and stuff. And to some degree, yes, there is those issues and the things that have happened with U.S. and French and the United States intervention in these countries and coming in and getting involved in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. These things do give motivation to people like ISIS. But to say that the United States created ISIS is just false, because the idea of fundamentalist Islam is not a new idea. ISIS is just the latest in a long run of fundamentalist terrorists. You know, before them we had the Taliban and we had Al Qaeda, and those groups still exist. And there were others before that, and there were others before those. And it's a long history of this sort of fundamentalist aggression and extremism. And of course, as Philippe and Marion said, the idea that people don't feel connected in a social way and have their identity more connected with their nation and their culture versus their religion is certainly a big problem. That certainly gives people the feeling of being an outcast and the feeling of wanting to be involved in something where they feel like they can make a difference. It's like we see in some children when you don't get positive attention in your life for the things that you do. Many people will seek out negative attention and act negatively in order just to get attention because they want to be recognized. So there are certainly a lot of motivations, and to say that Islam motivated these acts is certainly not the whole case, because there are outside influences that have motivated this. But again, we get back to the problem of justification. You know, you can feel motivated to want to do something. You might be angered and enraged by if you live in a society where rape culture is the norm, and that might anger you, and you might want to act out against that. But from a secular standpoint, you have to ask yourself if you're justified in doing that. Is there a justification for violence and aggression? And when it comes to the secular point of view, for most of us, we look to logic and reason, and we say we can't justify those actions. As much as it may anger us and as much as we may want to act out, we can't find a rational justification for doing so. That's the big problem with religion, is that once you get involved in a religion, especially something on the fundamentalist side, you get that justification. That justification becomes real, and it comes from a supposedly divine source, from God. And God says you're justified in doing this. Your God says it's okay to do it. It's morally okay, and it's totally logical and right to do it. And that is the big issue, where this justification comes from. Because if you don't have a justification, you tend not to act out. You can't find a good logical reason to do it, so you just don't do it. You tend to speak out more, you know, and that's where social activists come from, because we are motivated to do something, but we understand that anger and violence is not the answer. So you know, that's what we need to push for, I think. Arif wanted to add something here. Go ahead, Arif.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Okay, cool. I joined a little bit late, so I may have missed a few bits, so I might repeat a few things, so excuse me for that. I have been following this discussion, obviously, and you know, I'm enchanted with so many different views. However, you know, in addition to what you said, I wanted to kind of focus on from a different point of view. So generally, my understanding, or my, you know, standpoint of mind is that this whole program of violence and you know, attack on foreign soils is actually a Middle East and Saudi campaign, I would say, of expansion. Obviously, this expansion is not directly synonymous to what, for example, colonialism used to be in the old days. And the discussion that you guys were having surrounds, if we look at from a kind of a war perspective, of recruitment of soldiers. Every country have obviously their soldiers, and they motivate their soldiers to, you know, different nationalism and all these factors that they motivate people to. Islam has this motivational factor is that if you are a proper pious Muslim, then you belong to a very very superior race, and then if you do it right, if you are violent enough, you go have a kind of a free direct ticket to the afterlife. So all these motivational factors, and also joined with the grievance that you mentioned, that they feel outcasted and they don't have any prospect or prosperity, they finally fall for the recruitment campaign that takes place. Now, although just going back to Casper's comment about that, this Noam Chomsky stand that United States and Israel is to blame for the creation of ISIS, we cannot completely ignore that. The reason I'm saying this is because America, not the whole of America, even Democrats are in power. The Republicans, which is driven by the Christian machinery, is controlled by the oil families, and the oil families have this long-standing relation with the oil families or the monarchies of Middle Eastern powers, and they enact their strategy, or should I say foreign policy, through Britain. And Britain is kind of the mechanics of creating relation with the Saudis and all the religious nut jobs that there are in that region of the world. So although as a general atheist and democratic supporting person, you may be, the whole of America and its machinery that has the actual power to do those changes are not in agreement with you as a or us. They have their own agenda and they have their own machinery and power, which we do not have any control over. So they do help Britain, they do help Saudi Arabia to, for example, arms and ammunitions, which eventually ends up in the ISIS hands. So maybe not directly, but indirectly through Saudi Arabia, it happening. And so generally, coming back to the whole topic of the title of today's discussion is violence. Why violence is so important to instill? Why the violence is here? Because I personally think Islam, as a strategy to expand, uses violence constantly. It goes out and does tremendous amount of very bad violent actions publicly and without any kind of remorse and complete impunity, because they have this righteousness within themselves, and also there is nobody, they know that right now, they know that nobody is going to stop them, because Saudi Arabia is getting most of the power these days through all these big players of the world. And that's why every young person who do not follow the same moral code like we do, or humanity or humanism, they very much goes out and joins that army, and that army have given them absolute power. And this goes back to Muhammad's ways. The way Hazrat Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, was able to expand so rapidly, so fast, within such a short period of time, is that his strategy of recruitment, where it was said that if you go out and fight for Islam, you will get a share of the prime objects that at that point people used to, or the men used to value, which is a part of the loot, and also women. You kill the husband, you get the women. So that's how a lot of people joined in. And once you have a critical mass, it becomes really impossible to prevent it. And obviously, the core of this is violence and fear. Fear is the most important thing. What happened in Paris, the reason they keep coming back to Paris is that this same said that Philip rightly said what France is. It stands for secularism, and it's very, very strong-headed in keeping it that way. It's not going to bow down. It's going to take a lot of efforts for Saudi Arabia to attack. Everyone else has folded already. Britain is already in bed with Saudi Arabia for centuries now. Swedish I think that minister tried a few bit, but then when the contracts and everything came, they folded as well. And I think all the Scandinavian countries, because they have that much wealth, they don't really matter that much. They're not going to be primary targets. But France, because it takes a stand in the whole world and it kind of keeps the flag up, there is a primary target. So the only thing we can do as general people, because we don't have any more say in what goes on in the world, the democratic system has broken down, and unless and until we get that back, it's not gonna end. And that is my end of my rant.
Thank you very much, Arif. Yeah, like you make the point. We can't ignore the how the actions of countries such as the U.S. and others and their interactions and involvement in the Middle East have certainly driven motivation for many Islamic terrorists and terrorist groups to take rise there. It's certainly an issue that can't be overlooked and ignored. The bigger point, though, is the actions of those people who have risen to power due to those interactions of the U.S. and other countries in the Arab region. The violence that they perpetrate, that is not something that anyone has told them to do other than the Quran. The Quran is what tells them to be violent. The Quran is what tells them to use violence as a tool to, expand their domain and to enact change. So we get back to the point of the Quran is the justification. Islam is the justification for the acts, and certainly there are many motivations. But the justification is the problem, and that's what we have to root out. Because you can put anyone in power or give anyone a platform, but what they do is their own choice. There is personal responsibility within that, and they choose to use violence because they're given a justification for it. And I think we need to focus on that. To focus on dealing with where this justification comes from, and the fact that it is illogical and irrational, and it has no place in a modern society. Costas wanted to speak, and then I'll let Raymond speak.
Hi everyone, can everyone hear me properly? Okay, awesome. Firstly, I just want to touch on a few points. It's not only, in my opinion, the religious extremists who are the problem. Extremism in all its forms is very problematic. Obviously, having had first-hand experience while I was in the army, I've seen firsthand what extremism can do, both religious and political extremism, in terms of human lives. And this is the problem that needs to be sorted out, because, like Arif touched on when he was talking about how recruitment works and everything. There are obviously people and factions and religions out there who tend to touch on people's insecurities and different aspects that they have with themselves, and turn that into extremism. They take them in, they give them a new purpose, they basically brainwash them through training and through propaganda and all this. And this isn't only something we see in religion. We see this in all the in the military complex as well, the military-industrial complex. And this has no place in a modern society. What we need to do is people need to start broadening their horizons, broadening themselves. Start reading, start experiencing new cultures, new things, because as long as there are people out there who are stuck in that old mindset, these things will continue to happen, not only for religious reasons, but for political, for economic reasons, for many reasons. Obviously, we're talking we have this topic because of the attacks that happened 2 nights ago in France, and it's disgusting what happened in France. You know, like people have touched on before, it's not just because it's France, but because of how and what happened. The people went out, they were enjoying concerts, you know, they were enjoying all the different places that happened, and something like this happened. You know, like at the beginning of the evening, no one knew that I'm going to go watch this concert, this is what's going to happen. And it happened because of extremist views, regardless of the fact that it was religious, because there's millions of Muslims out there, but how many of them are willing to strap a bomb to their chests, grab an AK-47 and gun down a few innocent people? You know, so it's like how it happened in France. There's 8 people, 8 extremists, and whoever else was behind the organization of it, who are basically sick in the head, in my opinion. Because, you know, it's all about interpretation, it's all about everything. And obviously, you know, I'm an atheist, as are all of you, so I'm against everything that religion stands for. But, you know, there are people who do follow religion and who aren't violent, who don't interpret it as a call to arms, as violence. And I think this is also something that needs to be touched on. Also, something else is there's attacks for religious reasons and for whatever other reasons that happen all across the world, and these things aren't in the media. Like a few hours ago, I posted on Facebook about the attacks in at a Kenyan university back in April. You know, there were articles that were posted about it, but it wasn't big news. But this is 147 students that were gunned down again by a Muslim faction. But it wasn't ISIS and it wasn't Al-Qaeda, so obviously it wasn't important. And it was Kenya, you know, Africa. Violent attacks happen in Africa every day, so why report on it? If this had happened in Croatia, where Marita is, I don't think it would be such big news. So we need to start broadening and looking at other places and other things as well. And all of us actively trying to, you know, not teach people, but get the word out, you know, that because other people are the way they are because they don't know anything else. They don't have any other views or viewpoints on this. And like Marita said in the chat, it's basically brainless motherfuckers out there. That's basically what I have to say. I might have a few points I might interject later if there's time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Costas. Yeah, you know, and you made a good point. We can talk about religious extremism all day long, and of course it exists. But there are other forms of extremism, and if we look back through history, we'll see that as well. There have been atheist leaders and atheist-led countries that have also been extremists. You look at Stalin and Mao. These men were atheists, and yet they created a sort of nationalist religion and gave justification to violence and aggression through their nationalist viewpoints. So extremism can take rise without religion. That is certainly a very true thing, and that is certainly something that we have to understand and address. Even if we get rid of religion, as long as there is this division and divisiveness that comes from nationalism, we can still see extremism. We can still see extremist rise, and we can still see justification for those acts. So it is certainly not specific to religion. It is not an anomaly that only occurs within religion, and that is definitely a good point that we have to address and understand as a group. Ray, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, can everyone hear me? Okay, so the first thing I wanted to cover was some of the response you're seeing in the media and what friends are saying, and you can kind of tell whether they're a left-wing or a right-wing by their response. Some people already touched on what the left-wing people are saying. Their mantra is not all. And everybody already knows that not all Muslims are fundamentalists. just common sense. But that's what they keep saying. And I think Sam Harris once said, fundamentalists are only a problem if there's a problem with your fundamentals. And that's pretty much sums up the whole situation. Now, when you look at the conservative side of it, a lot of them are rightfully targeting Islam as the cause, but I'm not sure how much you follow American politics. There was one of the presidential hopefuls on the conservative side gave out a tweet that said, if 15 or 20 people in the Bataclan in Paris had been carrying guns, it might have been a different situation. And that's so far outside of what you should be saying that I don't even have words for that. Like, and where I am in Canada, a lot of people are taking the chance to target our new Prime Minister because he's a liberal, and he campaigned on multiculturalism and letting people wear the hijab during their oaths of citizenship and whatnot. And I don't see that as even something that should be being covered, because if you want to cover your head, just do it, as long as you're not forcing anyone to do it. It shouldn't have anything to do with terrorism.
Yeah, it's some very good points there, Ray. And I wanted to touch on something that Arif mentioned, because Arif is very involved in these matters, and especially when it comes to the sort of Arab expansion that we're seeing and everything that has propagated a lot of this. Bernie Sanders in his most recent debate actually made a comment that sort of tied together these terrorist actions with climate change, and I think Bernie made a good point, because nations like Saudi Arabia, which have this control through oil, and their monarchies, they pour a lot of money into extremist groups, and they help a lot of these terrorist groups and organizations to thrive and exist. And the fact that, especially here in the United States, we're actually having people debate over whether climate change is a real thing, it continues to give rise to that. These people in the U.S., especially within the Republican Party, that have vested interests in the oil market, they keep people like Saudi Arabia in power, and they keep them monetized so that they can pour money into terrorist groups and extremist groups. And by doing that, they're helping to propagate this sort of violence. And I think if we can address climate change as a real thing, and we can address the need to get away from oil and to move into renewable energy and resources like that, we would see a decline in these actions, because Saudi Arabia would not be getting all this money from the whole entire world that they can pour back into these terrorist and extremist groups. So I think that Bernie made a good point. If we stop paying these people all this money, they'll stop funding these other people because they won't be able to afford to. So it's a big issue. It's not something that's simple and one-sided and easy to deal with. It's very complex, and it's very nuanced, and we can't just address it as a single-minded, myopic issue that if we just deal with religion, it'll be fine. It's bigger than that. And that's what it comes down to when you look at the world from an international humanist perspective, and you say that all human life is important, and how can we better all of human life and all of humanity. That's something that we have to focus on. How can we do that? How can we make all of humanity better? How can we get rid of extremism by getting rid of nationalism and by getting rid of fundamentalism and by changing the world that we live in? So very important topics and very nuanced and very complex to deal with. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to wrap it up, and then we'll go ahead and close out for today? Yes. All right. Oh, Awaz, you wanted to add something.
Can you guys hear me?
Sorry. Unmute your microphone, Awaz. Unmute your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, see, what I see is here in Pakistan, when you talk about extremism, like Pakistan is divided into classes, right? And we are like, I belong to the middle class, upper middle. There are people like us, like women in my family. Most of them don't wear hijab, they wear pant shirt, they don't wear kurta. They go out, they hang out with guys, and so that's a different class. So when it comes to Quran, if you like, for instance, if you tell my sister that she should wear hijab, she's going to tell you that it's between her and God, and it's none of your business. So she's not going to wear hijab, and she's not going to force anyone to wear it. But then there are other classes, lower classes, and they just take Quran literally, like my cousin, her husband won't allow her to see us because it's haram. It's not allowed. My point is like, the fault I find is in the Quran because it's so ambiguous. There's going to be a certain verse and it's going to be very open. So it's up to you. For instance, only last night I was reading this one that women are sort of a trial after Muhammad left for women, or the trial after Muhammad. The biggest trial after Muhammad for men is women. Now, when you look at it, I was talking to my cousin, and he's like, what he means is that guys shouldn't look at girls. That's a trial. But in general, when you look at in general public, it means that women are like, I don't know, some sort of object and distraction, and which is why they put them in a box, like my cousin's husband, that she's in a box. She has to wear this entire burqa thingy, and she's not allowed to see it. That's my point. My basic point is that it is the Quran because it is so ambiguous. You just take whatever you want from it and you morph it into it. Like a jihad or whatever. Like I told my cousin, jihad comes from Islam, and he's like, no, in Islam the biggest jihad is fighting yourself, which is true and not true, because there are other forms of jihad and people just take the one they want. Like if I want jihad, I'd do it against myself and be a good person. But what most of the people do is they're like, fight the West, do this, do that. Yeah, so that's a
Thank you, Awaz. Very good points. Costas had something he wanted to add, and then we'll let Philippe interject, and then we'll wrap it up.
Hi again, everyone. Marita had asked me if I could read the rest of her text that she had prepared, so I'll just carry on from that. Right. So she touched on, we all know what happened in Paris, about how religion is one of the greatest weapons, that were created by man to harm man. I'll carry on from here. Regardless of their religious commitment, we need to find ways to actively participate in the destruction of this evil, which is religion. Yesterday morning, when she saw on Facebook what had happened, she immediately contacted her sister and immediately went to see if Philippe was all right. She followed the news all day. This massacre or the slaughter happened right in our backyard. It doesn't matter that she doesn't live in France. She considers Europe to be her backyard. I mean, we're all Europeans. It could happen to any country next. Everything that happens in Europe affects her. She's a part of Europe. She's been getting horrible messages in her inbox and comments. Why? Because she blames fucking religion. You know, she gets texts to the effect of "Do not blame religion." You know, this would have happened anyway. People are poisoned by false religious beliefs. They kill all non-believers because they want to fuck 72 virgins. You know. And because Muhammad tells them to, because the Quran says so, or because the Bible says so. Just because of that, she feels helpless because she can see that religion doesn't work. People are just the long arm of religion. Everything that is written in the Quran, they believe. It doesn't matter whether they are residents of Croatia, Germany, Austria, Spain, or France. Regardless of the education, they kill because it's written in the Quran. It's easy to kill when you are waiting for 72 innocent pussies. They are cowards with no morals, no knowledge, and no heart. People blame all the Western countries. Why? Because of their policies that helped various factions in which they are. For example, Al-Qaeda and ISIS originated, and other bastards and murderers. Somewhere, she heard the phrase, "Do not ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." My country is not only Croatia. My country is the world, regardless of what you all see as stupid or moronic. My country is not only Croatia. My country, the world. Sorry, I just said that. I'm sorry that the death and slaughter happened. That's happening all over the world. I'm sorry that my friends are afraid. I'm sorry that my family is scared, and I'm sorry to all those who lost dear and loved ones just because of fucking lousy religion. That's the text. Okay.
Thank you, Costas. Philippe.
So I'm going to try to wrap it up and to have to place different things. There is different topic. It's so wild. It's so large. There's so much to say that it's difficult to treat it all in 1 hour. So basically, about the fact that those people are acting like to retaliate to our policies in the Middle East, I would quote an Algerian writer who used to say he's been killed by Islamists, and he was saying, "You write, they kill you. You don't write, they kill you either. So write." So whatever we do, they will always find a pretext, an alibi to attack, because it's not what we do that cause them a problem. It's what we are, and they hate what we are. Now, what they have been doing, it's putting a trap. What they want is that French society closes itself on itself and blame the Muslims and start to have retaliation against the Muslim population. Would that be from the government, or would it be like civilian militias or whatever bullshit of that sort? And so, as Marion stated before, to create a tension between, create communities, and then tensions between the communities, and to have an alibi to say, you see, French people hate you because you're Muslims. They don't see you as French, and so you're not French, so attack the French, okay? And that would be, just like she said, a snowball. So what we have to address too is that the last report we have is that we have 4,000 guys, 4,000 French people actually in Syria and coming back and are surveilled by our CIA.
And already 800 trained jihadists on the French territory. That's what they say. 4,000 gained trained and 800 on the French territory. So, yeah. Ils ont dit ça sur le français.
So, how do you monitor all those guys? How do you know which one is going to snap and take action? Other thing, okay, so in the troop that we had 2 nights ago, there was French guys, but the 2 first guys who blew them up nearby the stadiums, it seems they were Syrians. they were not French.
Un Syrien, un Égyptien.
One Syrian and one Egyptian. So you see, it's a coalition about the whole world against the lights. So it's going to happen everywhere and anywhere. And about addressing, say, how do we fight that? Well, we can fight the fundamentalism, and that's, I think, we're trying to do. Because if you know a little Islam, to be a good Muslim, you have to believe in Allah, you have to believe in angels, you have to believe in the revealed books, like the Talmud and the Bible, you have to believe in the messengers and the prophets, Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Virgin Mary. You have to believe in resurrection and last judgment. You must believe to the Al-Qadar, which is an ensemble of characters which defines Allah. Allah knows everything from the past and the future. Allah has all written, past and future. Everything Allah decides arrive. Everything Allah refuses to arrive doesn't arrive. And Allah is the creator of everything. So obviously you see that there is so much things that we can fight within our cultural religion, like angels, Virgin Mary, all those myths, those prophets, those stupidities that are the base, the core base of the belief of Quran. If we destroy those by what we do, we are fighting again some of the ideas that are sustaining Islam. Okay, it's not going to break it down, because when you believe whatever, you can be shown and whatever, and we know that, and you know that, Casper, regarding what's happening in America. Well, cognitive dissonance is not something that you can address like this. But anyway, we can try. That's what we can try to do. And, well, there is hope.
Thank you, Philippe. Yeah, I think one of our biggest problems that we have to overcome is the divisive nature of human beings. We want to divide ourselves into little autonomous entities, and see that our group is better than another group, and so on and so forth, and so it's this divisiveness that's sort of innate within human beings, and this wanting to belong to something that causes a lot of this, and I think that's somewhere that we can really focus on unity. You know, we have to understand that humanity itself is an organism within itself. Yes, you're an individual, but and yes, you're a unique little snowflake. But one snowflake in an entire ground covered in snow really doesn't mean anything. You have to look at the entire snowfall. You have to look at the entire field. And that's where humanity needs to be. We need to view ourselves as an entire organism, and work towards unity, and how we can better benefit. Marita stated that religion is cancer, and to a great extent I agree, because when you have cancer, it's an organism fighting itself, and it's fighting to kill itself, and that's what we see within humanity is this entity of religion that is fighting against humanity and in fighting to kill humanity itself, and that is a form of cancer. You know, I want to thank all the team members that showed up today and offered their thoughts, had some really good thoughts and points put out there today, and to all the people that come back and view this on YouTube, please leave your comments in the section below, and we'll try to address those as we get around to reading them, and leave us your thoughts and let us know what you think about what we've said here today. If you agree, if you disagree, just leave us some comments and let us know. Once again, Atheist Republic is a nonprofit organization. The things that we do here are not necessarily free. And so we can always use your support, whether you want to volunteer for the team. There's a link in the YouTube video to join our team and volunteer as you may want. And also we could use some financial support, as always, because we are a nonprofit organization. So if you'd like to contribute financially to Atheist Republic, please visit atheistrepublic.com, and you'll see a link on the page to contribute if you can. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up here. And once again, I'd like to thank the whole panel for showing up today. And please leave your thoughts on everything that we've said. Bye.